registered, it is time to clock in. It's time for your shift to begin. Now, the way electronic visit verification works is when your shift begins, you clock in. When your shift ends, you clock out. So if you start the shift at a laundromat, if you started driving your participant somewhere, if you start it at the participant's home, whenever your shift begins, that's when you're going to clock in. Whenever your shift ends, that's when you're going to clock out. So let's take a look at employees, how you start and finish a shift. Now, the helicopter perspective is that the employee logs into CellTrak, clocks in, selects the participant they're delivering services to, and then they select the service that they are providing, as applicable. Okay, so that might not pop up depending on the waiver of the participant. And then that employee would start their shift. So let's take a look at each step. The first step is to log in. So after you've downloaded the CellTrak mobile application, the employee has registered, right? The employee is able to clock in for their first shift. So you can tap the CellTrak icon on your screen to open it up. And this is what the login screen looks like right here on the right. So the hardest part might be remembering your password, right? We're human, we've all had that happen before. If you forget your password, you can click on Forgot Password. And then you'll be prompted to enter an answer to your security questions. Okay. And if you get those correct, you'll be able to reset your password. But it's time to clock in. We remember our password. So we are going to go to the next screen and tap Clock In. Now, what you're looking at on the top right here, I like to highlight this, is the home screen. And I like to highlight, now for individual service, if you see the Clock In button, that means you are not actively clocked in for a shift. Okay? Your shift has not begun. So if you're working, you process. Once you tap Clock In, which participant are you delivering services to? You might only serve one participant, or you might serve multiple. You'll select from the list and then advance to the next screen. Now, the bottom right corner, the blue arrow, that's what typically advances you to the next screen. Now, as applicable, only the services that you are able to provide will appear. So if you only provide long-term care, this screen itself will not appear. There's only one service code option, so this entire screen will not appear. But for some of you, that might mean you skip this. And you go right to Start Shift. So you select, you tap Clock In, you select the participant. If needed, you select the service, and then you tap Start. Now, this is when the shift begins. This is when location is captured per the Federal 21st Century CARES Act so you can begin your shift and deliver services. From here, you can close your phone, you can turn it off. There is absolutely no need to leave CellTrak on or open on your device. Okay. So let's fast forward. We've clocked in, we've provided our shift, our services. It's now time to clock out. Our day is finished, or at least this shift is finished. So to start, you want to log back into CellTrak. So whether you are connected to the internet or cell phone reception or not, whether you're at the person's home, wherever you end your shift as agreed upon between the employee and the employer, it's time to clock out. Your login, you just select at least one task that was provided, then review and provide signatures. If the employer is available, they can sign off right then and there. If they're not, that's okay. They can do it later in Access Online. And next, they would confirm and clock out. So to log in, we're back at that same login screen. You can log right in. And if you do have, Face ID or fingerprint on your phone, you can also set that up when you register for the first time, but that will not be available if you share this device with other employees. Now, before you can clock out, you do need to select the tasks that were provided. So you're going to tap on Wyoming tasks here. Notice there's a little red asterisk, a little red circle next to it because they have not been selected yet. Next, you select the tasks that were provided And you're going to tap the bottom right arrow to keep those selections. Now, perfect. So we've selected the tasks. Now it's time to review the shift to make sure it looks correct and clock out. So we can see the start time, the finish time, and look, in this case, the duration is only 3 minutes. So this is a good opportunity to highlight that we follow the Department of Labor. So if you clock in between 4 o'clock and 4:07 and 30 seconds or less, you will be rounded down to 4 o'clock. If you clock in between 4:07 and 31 seconds to 4:14, it's going to round up to 4:15. So that's home and you completely forgot, oh my goodness, I forgot to clock out, right? I'm sitting on the couch, I'm eating my ice cream, and I realize I'm still clocked in. So when that happens, the time as reported by EVV for this shift need to be adjusted. So you want to check the box that says yes, because yes, we need to adjust the time and the date. Because the employer and employee, you should never sign off on something if it does not look correct. So if you need to adjust the time, the current pay period are not accepted. So it must be within the current pay period, the 1st to the 15th or 16th to the end of the month. So notice here, it's asked you, do you need to adjust the start time or the end time? So in this case, we'll say we're going to adjust the start. Maybe I got to work and I'm working, I'm supporting the participant, and then I realized I forgot, my phone in the car. So I can adjust the start date, the start time, and I must select a reason for making that adjustment. You want to make sure it's adjusted so it reflects the services and the time spent actually working. All right, so if needed, you've made your adjustments. The next step, the employee is always going to sign off on your own shift. Okay? But if the employer is available, you have to go into ACES Online later. If the employer is available, they can scroll up, review the information, and sign off on that shift. If the employer is not available, and that's okay, because they can just go into ACES Online later and approve or reject those shifts in ACES Online. So if their employer is not available, it will switch to no. They would select no and enter a reason why. The employer might be in the shower, they might be taking the dog to the vet, they might be at the grocery store. They might live across town. It's a plethora of reasons an employer may not be available, and that's understood. Now, that being said, it's very important that no one but the employer can sign off on, can approve, or reject time. That is solely the role of the employer. I want to stress, it's the sole responsibility of the employer to verify that services have been provided and to sign off on the EVV shifts before they are submitted to ACES for payment. If the employee, participant, if the participant is not the employer, of course, an authorized representative, a case manager, any other member of the household who is not the employer signs off on an EVV shift, it is considered fraudulent submission. So it is fraud. And that can result in one or more of the following actions. It could be non-payment of the submitted shifts. It could be removal from the participant direction program, both the employer, employee, or both. And it could also result in potential legal action. So I hope that clears up the roles very clearly. Now, to actually sign off on the shift, you press the pencil box, the little pencil button. And if you've ever used a finger or stylus, however you engage with a touch screen, you can do so to provide your signature. And if you don't like your penmanship, you can use the eraser to erase it. Or if it looks good, you can use the check mark. And that'll keep the signature. Once everything looks good, it's time to clock out. It is time to press OK, right? So we've pressed the check mark, and that's the final question. Are you sure you want to clock out? Are you sure you want to finish? And the answer is yes, right? The shift is done, so you can press OK. After that, you're brought back to the home screen where you can clock in again for another shift or a different participant, whatever your day looks like for you.